Today's episode of the Ramp It Up podcast contains explicit language and may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener's discretion is advised. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to the Ramp It Up podcast with your host, Ronel Sinuis.
Are you ready to ramp it up?
Ramp it up, ew!
Hey, yo, ramp it up, B.
Girl, ramp it up! Ramp it up!
The Ramp It Up podcast.
Hey, you need to ramp it up.
Ramp it up.
Hello and welcome to season 4 of the Ramp It Up podcast. I am your host and your favorite Zoe on Wheels, Ronel Sinus. Welcome back to all our loyal listeners who've been with me since day 1, 3 years ago, January 13th, 2020, when I launched the Ramp It Up podcast. And here we are 3 years later, today being January the 15th. Thank you so much, everyone who's been with me from day 1, day 2, day 3, even those who are joining me for the very first time today. Thank you so much. I guess I should introduce myself to any new listeners. Again, my name is Ronel Sinus. I'm a Haitian American man living in Miami, Florida, 305, Curl City, Miami Gardens, all day. I'm the last of 6, born to 2 amazing parents, Monsieur Kisnel and the late Madame Mireille Sinus. We moved to Florida in 92, originally born in Brooklyn. Yes, I said 92. That means I'm old. So all of you trying to do the math. I am 36. And in 2016, December, the 2nd to be precise, I had a traumatic injury, a spinal cord injury as a result of a diving accident, which resulted in C4, C5 level quadriplegia. And instead of just thinking life would be over and woe is me and being negative, I decided to buckle down, of course, with the support of my amazing family, some great friends who I don't consider friends, but consider family as well, who have supported me physically, financially, emotionally, everything throughout the entire time. I decided to put together this podcast. I have a background in broadcast journalism, and I missed being on the microphone, and in an attempt to, I guess, self-counsel myself, it was like a self-therapy project I started off with. The Ramp It Up podcast was born, and here we are 3 years later, still going strong. Quick summary of the podcast. It's to encourage all those going through any kind of trials or challenges to understand that you can overcome. You'll come out on the other side. Of course, my perspective is that of a person living with a disability, acquired later on in life. I'm a wheelchair user, and here on the show, I always refer back to, of course, the spinal cord injury community or those with disorders or just wheelchair users in general. And we just talk about not only overcoming, but living each and every day of our lives with our injuries and with our disabilities. And they are part of who we are now, and they do not stop us from achieving amazing lives, whether it's career or academically or romantically, or, hey, you just sit down and watch the best shows and read the best books. For whatever you are, you're enjoying your life. And that's what I want to bring to the lives of others, to show them that you can continue living a great life. No one wants to live a normal life. What is normal? I want a life full of adventure. I want a life full of love. I want a life full of excitement. So that is what the podcast is all about. If you have not done so, feel free to stream through all of our previous episodes, 3 seasons, about 20 episodes per season. So it won't take too long. You'll have a great time. I had some great interviews. We talk about some great topics, of course, giving my story about acquiring my spinal cord injury and learning about it and living with it, and myself getting advice from others who've had spinal cord injuries and disorders much longer than I, and hearing their stories and how we navigate living in this not so accessible world with our wheelchairs and with our caregivers and with our family and our partners. And we talk finances. We talk a little bit about everything. So if you yourself have a spinal cord injury or disorder, or you're a wheelchair user, or just a person with a disability, or anyone in general that's just dealing, like I said, with different challenges, I think you can learn a lesson or two, or just be inspired, or just hear a great story and want to share it with others by listening to the podcast. And if you're a caregiver or you're the family member of someone who has a disability, or the partner of, I think you could always find great resources here. And if I can't help you, I always tell folks, email me. I am always open to answering emails. The email for the show is rampituppodcast@gmail.com. If you have any questions, if you want to connect with me here, if you want to connect with one of my previous guests, you can email us and I'll do everything I can to help you with those resources. We're also on social media. You can follow us on Instagram at ramp.it.up.podcast. Again, ramp.it.up.podcast. We are on Facebook. Just search for the Ramp It Up Podcast. You'll find us on Facebook. Folks are trying to peer pressure me into doing the whole TikTok thing. I guess at some point, maybe, but I don't know. I'll keep you guys updated there. If you haven't done so, you know you should subscribe and follow our podcast. We're on all major podcast streaming platforms: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon, Google, you name it, we're on there. And if we're not on there, we're gonna be soon. We also started last season on YouTube, putting some videos up on YouTube. So if you prefer a bit of a visual alongside the audio, you can definitely check us out on our YouTube page. Again, just search for the Ramp It Up Podcast. I have links in the episode notes. But not only am I asking you guys to listen every time a new episode comes out, or to subscribe and follow us, but we want your opinions about the show. Make sure you subscribe, and then after you subscribe, you get to rate and review. Tell us how great the show is and how much you enjoy listening on a regular basis. Of course, we know it's a 5-star rated show in my heart, but I want to know what you guys are thinking as well. And I love to interact with all our listeners, so that's a great way to let me know if I'm doing a great job or not. I think that's it. That was just a premise, just to give you a little bit of background of the show. Again, I think the best way to find out is to listen. Join the community of folks who listen to the Ramp It Up podcast. That being said, we are in January again. Another year has gone by. So allow me to be the first to say Happy New Year, Happy Holidays. I know we're like 2 weeks in to the new year already, but that doesn't take away the fact that we are fortunate, we are blessed to be on this side of 2023. Unfortunately, did not do so, or just made it and then things didn't go too well for them. But we are here, we are positive, we're praying that this year continues to give us nothing but good things. The last 3 have been a bit questionable, but we're positive here on the podcast, and we're hoping for nothing but the best. We're wishing you guys all the best for 2023. But how was your holidays? Let us know. I know we were able to squeeze in 2 episodes for December, but we didn't talk too much about the holidays. Do you celebrate the holidays? Whatever they may be, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Christmas, or if you just enjoy spending time with your family. What did you do? Did you get any good gifts? Did mom and dad or Santa give you anything fun to play with or to help make your life more accessible? We want to know. Put up some pictures. I took some holiday pictures and shared them on our Instagram page, so you can check those out as well. Being that I am Haitian American, the new year means a little bit more to us than to others. January 1st, 1804, celebrated the independence of the island of Haiti from the French occupation. So January 1st is not only New Year's, but celebrated by Haitians and Haitian Americans all over as our Independence Day. So New Year's Eve, we usually go to church, say thank you to the good Lord for the previous year, and thank him for ushering us into the new year. So I did so on the 31st. It was an amazing experience and service at Mount Pisgah Seventh-day Adventist Church here in Miami Gardens, Florida. And then New Year's, part of the Haitian culture, we celebrated by drinking hot chocolate. It's like Haitian hot chocolate. It's not like just regular like Nestle Quick Hot Chocolate. It's like usually made from scratch. Haitian bread, and most importantly, soup Joumou. If you guys don't know what soup Joumou is, I'm put a link. It talks a little bit about the history of Haitian Independence Day and soup Joumou. I lost count this year. 1, 2, 3. I had 3 kinds of soup this year. And you're thinking, why is it 2, 3 completely different? No, it's not chicken noodle or clam chowder or tomato bisque. No, it's soup Joumou is based off of, the argument is still, is it squash or pumpkin? But I guess it depends what part of the country you're from. But it's a base, and it has potatoes, it has pasta, some veggies, sometimes meat. It's a great hearty stew, and it comes from back when the enslaved people of the island of Haiti were not allowed to eat it because it was considered to be a bourgeois food, a food of those who were in power, who were the so-called masters at the time. Well, after they received their freedom, everyone on the island was like, in your face, massa, we gonna eat the soup. And it's become a staple each and every year. So shout out to all my Haitians. Happy New Year and Happy Independence Day. And for those of you who didn't know about it, you just learned something new. So again, I'm glad everyone is here, not only for the new year, but to join me in this journey on season 4. I can't believe I'm here. It's been a lot of work. I'm not gonna lie, there were times where I either was sick and I missed out on a couple episodes, or I had to put a little bit more of my finances towards the podcast than I had budgeted for, and I thought it wouldn't make it. But again, with everyone's support, I am here. If you want to support further, you can definitely click the link at the top of the episode page where it says support the podcast. Feel free to do so because I pay for this. But, you know, I'm not here to solicit. I just want to share my story and, of course, the stories of others who are just trying to not just inspire, but encourage you to live your life to the fullest. Got to give birthday shout outs as I usually do. If you have birthdays in the month of January and you want a few folks to get a couple shout outs, I'll be able to get a couple in for the next episode before the end of the month. Again, email us rampituppodcast@gmail.com. But this year, for January, birthdays, I'm going to kind of run through them and just give you names. We're going to start with first, my little sister, Carlene, had her birthday in the beginning of the month. Then I have my godmother, shout out to you, my Nenen, Madame Get Michelle, birthday as well. Then my homeboy, my godbrother, my bro, Woody, his birthday was on the 6th. Shout out to you, my brother. Happy birthday to you. Then I have my sister-in-law, Nearly. Her birthday was in the beginnings of January as well. And towards the end of the month, one of my closest friends growing up, he is also the father of my goddaughter. But my boy, Herbie, his birthday is this month as well. So shout outs to all of you guys. I pray the good Lord keeps you as you continue to grow older and wiser. And you invest in some Bengay because we're getting old, so our joints and stuff, they're not the same. They start to hurt. But those are our birthday shout outs. Again, if you want to share some shout outs as well, or you want me to give you a birthday shout out, send it to us at rampituppodcast@gmail.com. So that was a lot. That was a long intro. But for today's episode, we're going to kind of just go over some of our past episodes. I want to share for the last 3 seasons my favorite episode and my favorite interview. Because sometimes it's kind of hard choosing between the two. So I'll separate them just for the sake of today's episode. So starting from season 1, we're going to talk about some past episodes and which ones I enjoyed the most leading up to plans for this season number 4. So we're going to go back in time. We're going to go to season 1 of the Ramp It Up podcast. It was, again, the format was real loose. I was kind of getting used to the message that I wanted to share with everyone. And of course, not wanting it to come from a very solemn background or a very negative perspective, because that's not who I am. So episode 1 was my neck and my back fractured, dislocated parts of my neck and back. So I felt only appropriate. So my favorite episode for season 1, though, was the second episode, entitled Quadriplegia Year 1. Because I had to get a bit real with everyone, and I shared the first year of my injury, and thus, to this point, I think that's been the worst year. It was very hard on me physically, emotionally, hard on my family, and not only that, but it just showed me that who was really in my corner. A lot of people came out of the woodwork to support me again financially, to check in on me. A lot of people disappeared as well, and I had to learn a lot of hard lessons, and all at the same time dealing with my new physical condition. And it wasn't easy. There were a lot of tears, a lot of pain. There were some very low moments and some high moments. So I would encourage you guys, if you haven't done so already, go check out Quadriplegia Year 1. It is the second episode of season 1 of the podcast. Again, it was great. I felt like it was touching, but you let me know. And not only that, but for those of you who may be dealing with a spinal cord injury yourself, how was your first year? Was it smooth? Were you prepared? Did you have the support that you needed to kind of get through that first year? Or were you like me, kind of just stumbling through the dark and trying to figure it out as you went along? I want to know. Now, my favorite interview for that year, it was a little hard to choose because I actually was in a support group and I met some great people. Some of these ladies and gentlemen were like really supportive and really helped me to go through. But I'll definitely give it to episode 8 of season 1, entitled 25 Years in the Game. My peer mentor, he goes by the name of Ryan Gabauer. He's been injured for now more than 25 years, I think 28, but he was very instrumental in me kind of getting past that first year. He's a high-level quad like myself. I'm trying to think if he's a C3. He's a little higher, or C3 or C2. He doesn't have the arm and shoulder function that I have, but he was the closest to my level of injury, and we talked about everything from, figuring out finances to relationships to trying to get back out and being social. And to this day, he remains a good friend of mine. He's helped me connect with a few people from the United Spinal, and he just continues to be a great resource and a great friend. So if you guys have not participated in any support groups, I know there's a stigma around support groups. It's not as lovey-dovey and holding hands as TV sometimes makes it seem. Sometimes it's just having someone that's dealt with some of your same issues, your same problems, and can give you advice or just understand where you're coming from. So I really did appreciate the folks from the Spinal Cord Injury Support Group of Miami and Broward. But the best interview goes to Ryan Gabauer. 25 years in the game. It was a great episode. He shares how he got injured at a very young age, at the age of 15, and we talked about technology and him graduating college and starting his own business. He's a real estate agent. So definitely take a listen to episode 8. Season 2. Now, just a reminder, season 1 was in 2020. COVID hit. We were all stuck in a house. It was wild. Many people didn't know what to do. So going into season 2, we all thought it was going to be done. We all thought, okay, cool, the government's been telling us it's not going to last too long, couple weeks, couple months, and now it's been a solid year of being stuck in the house. And little did we know we're going to be dealing with probably just about another year of being in the house. So I'll do it this way. Who was my favorite interview of 2021? That year was very difficult for me because I had a lot of good people, folks who worked in the spinal cord injury community as therapists, as nurses, folks who worked in volunteer capacities. But I think I'm a cheat. My favorite episode was also an interview episode, and then my favorite interview. So I'll do it that way. My favorite interview was with a gentleman by the name of Billy Price. That episode, let me see, episode number 13 of season 2 is entitled Roll a Mile in My Shoes. Get it? We're not walking. You got to roll. Anyway, Billy Price is the co-founder of Billy's Footwear. Billy's Footwear is a shoe/sneaker company that provides an accessible option to a lot of the shoes that are out there. For those of you who may not be aware, after a certain level of injury, it's hard putting on regular clothes. By regular, I mean, I used to wear Chucks and other Converse and other shoes that are a little tight, maybe a little fitted that, you can kind of deal with throughout the day, but you can't afford to have tight shoes or tight clothing on when you have a spinal injury because it can cause autonomic dysreflexia. So while in one of my support group meetings on Zoom, I heard someone talk about Billy footwear. I went and looked it up. I immediately bought 3 pairs of shoes. Not only are they fashionable, they're accessible. It's a zipper that goes almost around the entire circumference of the shoe, so you can slide your foot right in and don't have to deal with the pressures of trying to force your foot into the shoe. And Billy, again, just another quad who explained, of course, his story, his spinal cord injury story, and how, after being married and trying to be as independent as possible, one thing that always bothered him was being unable to put on his own shoes. And him and a business partner came up with the idea of creating Billy's footwear with a zipper that goes around that makes it accessible, not only to people with disabilities, but to younger kids who may have issues tying their shoelaces, or to older folks who may not be able to bend down for so long, or just for people who find the shoes stylish and don't feel like having to deal with the laces. So Billy was great because, again, it just gives you the idea of post-injury. That doesn't mean you have to give up on your dreams, give up on your career. Yeah, you might need assistance or a partner, but not only did he put out a fabulous product, a popular product, but he continues to inspire others through business, and he gives talks and does a lot of interviews. So rolling my shoes was a great opportunity to not only talk to a cool person, but I try to get some free sneakers out of it. Shh, don't tell nobody else. Next, my favorite episode. My favorite episode of the second season, I reconnected with one of my friends from therapy from Jacksonville Memorial Hospital. He goes by the name of Arnedo Carbo. Arnedo is a cool guy from Cuba. He came to the States, I think, in his teens. I'd have to go back and listen to the episode. But we met after his injury. He got injured a few months after I did. Similar circumstances, a diving accident. Thankfully for him, his injury is quite a bit lower than mine. But we spent a lot of time together in therapy. He jokes around. He loves himself a beer. He's a ladies' man. Arnedo is just a cool dude. So we spent time not only talking about our time together in therapy. We talked about his background growing up in Cuba. Talked about, meeting girls and dating, even after his injury. And, it was just a good time, just connecting, or reconnecting rather, with a friend of mine. We still remain cool friends till this day. He has his YouTube page, the Happy Quadriplegic, where now him and his girlfriend put up amazing videos and just show you that his life is complete. And, regardless of the injury or not, he's going to keep being himself. And Arnedo's a cool guy. So you won't know until you listen to season 2, episode 16, and check out his YouTube page. Again, the Happy Quadriplegic. So that brings us to the most recent season 3 of the Ramp It Up podcast. I think it was another good year. I had some great guests, some great conversation, and I met some really cool people as well. It's going to be another hard year to choose who will be my favorite as far as my favorite interview and my favorite episode. So I'll start with my favorite interview. I'll do that. My favorite interview was in February now. We love talking about love. Who doesn't love them some love? Well, in February, for Valentine's Day, I met up with a couple that I've been following on social media. They are a married couple. They are the Harrises, Mr. Leon and Mrs. Tierra Harris. And after following them for some months, and they do like comedy based on the relationship. Leon himself, he has a spinal cord injury due to being shot when he was younger. And they met later on in life, married, started a family, and during the pandemic, when everyone was bored at home, they decided to start up a page on Instagram to, lighten the mood and share their life as a quad couple, and just some of the love that they have for each other. They wanted to share it, especially through comedy. And what I really liked about them is they don't really sugarcoat. They enjoy sharing about the good times. She's very honest about some of the hard times where she needs a break. She got to kind of pull away from being both the wife, mom, and caregiver. And Leon does great. I really enjoy watching him share how he still plays the dad role. Just because he might be in a chair doesn't mean he's any less of a dad than anyone else. So it was great hearing his story of how he was hurt. I won't give you all the details. You're gonna have to go listen to episode 3 of the 3rd season. But Leon does share his story with me, and later on how he had to cope with growing up, going to school, or finishing school rather, and then lo and behold meeting the love of his life, Tierra. It was a beautiful story, and there's so much more that goes into it. There's a couple of articles that cover certain aspects of the relationship, and definitely I think you should check out their Instagram page as well. It's Harris Hope and Humor on Instagram. Of course, the link is in the episode notes. I think it's a great story on so many different levels, for his career, for the fact that many people assume post-injury or just people dealing with disabilities, we don't have the desire for relationships or sex or for marriage or anything like that, or just don't have the hope of doing so. So I think it is great. And not only that, but the fact that he even has kids. Having kids post-spinal cord injury isn't the easiest thing as well. So shout out to them, of course. I do keep in touch with them. And I think you guys would really appreciate the episode. So season 3, episode 3, my favorite interview. Now, my favorite episode of the year. Another difficult one because it was an exciting year. I did a lot of things. I got to participate in a couple events. But I will have to say it was another interview. And this one was a close one because I got to interview several really cool people. But season 3, episode 18, I had a chance to meet a gentleman by the name of Brandon Winfield. Now, as I mentioned it during the episode, but there was a little bit of sour feelings when I met him because when I initially got hurt, I had this great idea for an app and I was going to create it. It's going to be amazing. But I decided to do my due diligence, did a little bit of research. And guess who created the app first? Brandon. So, we jokingly talked about it. But so Brandon himself, he acquired his spinal cord injury at an early age as well. So we talked about him growing up and continuing to do some of the activities that he loved, which were extreme sports. But the app that he created is called iAccess Life, and it is a lifestyle app for those of us who are wheelchair users. And it helps rate locations of where you're going, maybe it be restaurants, venues, churches, parking lots, wherever. And it rates the level of accessibility of the areas, whether they have accessible parking, whether the entrance is wheelchair accessible, or if the ramp is like in the back of the building. So it was a great conversation. Not only that, but his development process, it wasn't easy. And again, for those of us who are going the entrepreneurial route, I think the conversation was very good and inspiring for us to do your homework. It is not as easy as you think, just jumping straight into a business. So Brandon Winfield, I'm not feeling sour anymore about the iAccess Life, but check out episode 18 of season 3. Now, just because I picked out a couple favorites, that does not mean all 3 seasons were amazing. I appreciate every guest that has been on the show, and I look forward to having a few more back on, and even more folks coming up for season 4. My vision for this season, though, is to really connect with my listeners and the people out there, because in between the episodes, in between big events, in between the Zoom meetings or whatever, there are a lot of people who still haven't become accustomed to living a life with a disability, and it's not easy. There's no shade, no negative feelings toward these people, because it, especially if it's something where you, and permit me, please forgive me as I make this comparison. You may disagree, and that's fine, and I don't mean it in a negative way. The argument has been for a long time whether it's worse to have been born with a disability and live your entire life with it, or to have acquired one later on in life. For me, my experience is having acquired my injury when I was 30. It was very rough. I was a man at the height of my handsomeness, in my fitness, in my career, planning on getting married, and I got hurt. And it turned my world upside down. So, in my opinion, in Ronald's life, for me, I think it hurt a little bit more being able to look back at what I was able to accomplish and the lifestyle I had and how I was physically and how I was physically able to do certain things to where I am currently. Now, I'm so blessed to have all my wits, to be still extremely handsome. But there's always days where, you feel retrospective or you have hard feelings or whatever it may be. I'm still early on in my injury. Others may have adapted better than I have, and I'm still pretty early on in my journey. But that's why I love doing this podcast, because I get to hear others' perspectives, folks who've been injured for 2, 3, 4 times as long as I have, and those who got injured more recently, and we get to share our perspectives, and even those who were born with spinal bifida or MS or different cerebral palsy or other disorders, and they've navigated life tremendously well, and we share our experiences and our advice. But there are still many people out there who are dealing with how life is inaccessible or discriminatory towards people with disabilities, and they've not come to terms with or found a way to enjoy life, and they sit at home and they may be depressed. And these are the folks that I really want to reach out to this season, and not just because I feel like I have the answers, because I don't, but to see what I can do to help them, whether it's just to interact more online. If Zoom and Skype and chat rooms are how you feel comfortable, then do so. Over the last 6 years, I've met one gentleman, of course he'll remain nameless, who only talks about the fact that he's missing out on his child growing up because he's injured and he misses out on a lot of activities. While on the other end, I've met many fathers who have spinal cord injuries who found ways to live full lives. So I connected them. Again, it's not because I have that answer. I haven't had that experience as of yet. But if I can be that middle person, or if there's a mother or a father out there who's not sure how to communicate with their child post-spinal cord injury, or how to get them motivated to get back into school or to work, hey, maybe, we could email each other, have a chat on the side. Or you can start following us on Instagram and Facebook, and we find a way to connect. So I really want to do that this year, and part of that is just leaving opportunities here in the podcast to share daily questions or email us if you want advice. And again, I'm not a therapist. I'm not a counselor. I do know a few at Jackson Memorial Hospital and at Memorial Hospital. And believe me, for those of you who may be reluctant to go through therapy, and I'm talking not physical, occupational, but psychiatric therapy, it helps. I've talked about it many times, the mental health part of your recovery journey and living your life with your disability is sometimes more important than the physical aspect. But my mission this year is to continue to connect with people, the listeners, with everyone here. And again, if I can help one person, I feel like it'll be a successful season. Email us, rampituppodcast@gmail.com. You can also send messages. If you want to connect to my regular Facebook page, Ronald Sinus, please do so. I'm open. If I can connect you to my support group here in South Florida, we'll do so. I'm a volunteer for the United Spinal Association, and there are chapters nationwide. And if I can help you connect with someone through the United Spinal, to sit down with you, visit, hang out. I'm trying to do that with some of my friends here. They're kind of used to being at home post their injury and not feeling as social. And I'm guilty of it as well. I'm not as social as I used to be. I used to be a bit more of a social butterfly. Now I think I'm more of a social moth. I'm trying to get back to being a butterfly, just getting back out. And I understand, their anxieties, their concerns. There's an embarrassment factor that sometimes come with it. I've experienced quite a few of them. I've had the urinary accident while out hanging out with friends, or I've had transportation be super late. So all of those things tend to encourage you to stay home, but I want to do the opposite. I want to encourage a lot of you this year to come out of that self-imposed cocoon. I know it's not easy when there are respiratory conditions that are part of it, or if you may not be as physically mobile as possible, then let's connect virtually however we can. That is my goal, and I pray it's your goal as well for this year. I didn't really do the New Year's resolution thing this year because everyone does it, and sometimes they kind of fall to the wayside, although I did pretty good in my list for last year. But for this year, as we close out for this episode, I'm just going to share 3 goals that I have for myself to better myself. And then I'll ask you to do the same, to share what 3 goals that you have to improve yourself in the year 2023. It could be a physical improvement, it could be a mental, emotional, however you feel like you can or want to improve yourself. What are those goals for 2023? My first one is to complete my certifications. We've talked about them a couple times here on the podcast. I have my CPAC certification that was coming up in November, but unfortunately, as I told you all before, my mother did pass away, and it kind of threw a wrench into my plans. So I have to finish studying so I can take that test coming up. I also have 2 other ones that I have my eyes on, but I won't share them as of yet. I'll share that with you coming up in the next couple months. The second thing I want to do is to continue improving my health, and that is overall health. I want to get down to a certain weight goal, and it's not just about the numbers, but that's how I monitor my own weight. I went a little wild for the holidays. Too many sweets and too many amazing dishes, so I gotta work that off as well and just get back to working out at the gym. I really think COVID scared a lot of us from going back to our regular lives, and it's hard thinking that, okay, it happened 2 years ago, but no, it's still around. There's still concerns, but I want to get back to being as physically active as I was. Of course, avoiding any more UTIs, any avoidable health concerns. Last one, and I kind of mentioned it before, getting back to being the social butterfly that I know that I am. I've started hanging out with some friends again, gone to a couple activities, but I promised myself this year I'm going to do 2 social things per month. No, that does not have to involve money. It doesn't have to be any giant activities, but going to the mall, maybe going to my local park, taking my nephews or nieces for a walk, just something active to get us out and about. I made them sound like they were pets, didn't I? Taking them for a walk, but hanging out with them, doing something social, going to visit my siblings in their homes, something to kind of not only improve my mood, but again, spark that desire for socializing again. I'm in my 30s. Life is not over. I'm still trying to find Mrs. Zoe on wheels. So we're working all of that, but I won't find her sitting in my house. So I'll ask you to do the same as we are closing out. Please share with me or contemplate. If you're not comfortable sharing, cool. Think about 3 things. 3 things that you can do to improve yourself. I'm looking forward to all of you staying tuned all season long. I have great activities lined up. We have some competitions, some giveaways, and of course, amazing interviews. So don't go anywhere. Season 4, the Ramp It Up podcast. We're on fire in 2023. Have a great one, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to the show. Connect with the podcast on social media. Check out our Instagram page at ramp.it.up.podcast or email us at rampituppodcast@gmail.com. Until next time.